Imagine a courtroom where the judge wields his gavel like a weapon, only to find himself suddenly on the wrong side of it. But what happened in the moments before his arrest would redefine justice in that city. To understand the full scale of this confrontation, you need to know the players involved. This wasn't a simple case of legal disagreement. It was a collision of two unyielding wills, each convinced of their own righteousness. Welcome to Winds of Thought. Before we dive into this incredible, true story, drop a comment below and tell us where you're tuning in from. And if you love tales of unexpected justice, with a seemingly powerless exposed corruption in the highest places, hit subscribe. We have powerful news stories coming your way every week. Now let's get into it. Congresswoman Eleanor Vance was no stranger to conflict. Long before her political career, she built a reputation as a tenacious federal prosecutor, a woman who thrived in high-pressure environments. She was feared by corrupt officials and admired by those she defended, a lawyer who never entered a fight she hadn't meticulously prepared to win. Yet, this particular case, involving a labyrinth of financial deception, would test her resolve like no other. The pressure was immense, not just from the complexity of the evidence, but from the powerful interests aligned against her. The proceedings took place under Judge Marcus Thorne, a legal titan known for his impatience, intimidating presence, and a record of rulings that often favored established power structures. He presided over his courtroom like a monarch, his word final and his tolerance for dissent famously low. Eleanor's case involved a complex web of embezzlement, linking a prominent, charismatic tech billionaire to misappropriated public infrastructure funds meant for community development. The evidence she had compiled was solid, or so she had believed when she walked in that morning. From the very opening gavel, the atmosphere was electrically charged with an unspoken animosity. Thorne barely glanced at Eleanor as she approached, his focus seemingly on a different document entirely. "Ms. Vance," he began, his voice a low, dismissive rumble that carried to the back of the silent room. "I've taken the liberty of reviewing your preliminary submission. Does it actually contain any substantive legal argument, or are we destined for another political spectacle today?" A faint, smug sneer from the defense table followed the verbal jab, but Eleanor stood firm, her posture unwavering. "Your Honor, the substance lies within the financial trails, which are clear and documented. My duty is simply to present them for the court's consideration," she replied, her tone measured and steady, betraying none of the frustration she surely felt. He leaned forward over the bench, a mocking glint in his eye. "Financial trails, counselor, often lead to dead ends and wasted time. Or are we simply chasing ghosts and conspiracy theories today?" The gallery stirred with a soft murmur. This wasn't standard judicial rigor or healthy skepticism. It felt like targeted, personal hostility. Eleanor felt the palpable shift in the room's energy. This judge wasn't just being difficult. He was being deliberately obstructive, aiming to dismantle her credibility before she could even begin. She proceeded, methodically displaying bank records and transaction ledgers that showed glaring, inexplicable inconsistencies. "If the court will please direct its attention to the first exhibit, which outlines the initial transfer. I will direct my attention where and I alone, see judicial merit," Thorne interrupted, his voice sharp as a blade. "Must we drown in a sea of redundant paperwork just to uncover what is likely a fundamentally weak argument?" The insult hung heavily in the still air. Eleanor took a deliberate breath, then calmly set her papers down on the lectern. "Your Honor, if you have a professional critique of my methods or preparation, I would welcome a sidebar to discuss it openly." It was a poised, powerful pushback, a subtle reminder that they were supposed to be officers of the same court. Thorne simply scoffed, waving a dismissive hand. "I critique the case before me, not the lawyer presenting it. Though, frankly, from where I sit, both appear to be significantly lacking in merit." The tension now thickened into a physical force, pressing on everyone present. Undeterred, Eleanor continued. She unveiled a primary contract that seemed perfectly legitimate. Then, with a dramatic flourish, she displayed a second document, a hidden addendum with contradictory terms, and then a third, a payment authorization. All bore the same, distinctive approving signature, Judge Marcus Thorne. The courtroom froze into a tableau of stunned silence. "Your Honor," Eleanor said, her clear voice cutting through the quiet like glass. "Can you please explain your authorization on these clearly unauthorized and frankly fraudulent fund transfers?" Thorne's judicial composure cracked for a split second, a flicker of panic in his eyes before the stern mask slammed back down. "That document is irrelevant and prejudicial. It was not entered into the record through proper channels," he stated, too quickly. "It was obtained under a full federal subpoena, signed by a chief district judge," she countered calmly, her gaze locked on his. "Then the chain of custody has been compromised. It's been mishandled. I won't allow it to be considered," he declared, but his voice had lost its commanding resonance. But the damage was irrevocable. The truth was now visible, seared into the mind of every juror, every reporter scribbling furiously. Eleanor, however, wasn't finished. She reached into her leather briefcase, her movements slow and deliberate. A recorded voice, slightly grainy but unmistakable, filled the cavernous chamber. "Handle it. I don't care how you do it. Those documents never reached the light of this courtroom, understand?" The voice, dripping with arrogant authority, was unquestionably that of Judge Marcus Thorne. "Pure chaos erupted." Thorne shot to his feet, shouting for order, but his commands were lost in the din. Eleanor simply nodded toward a stone-faced federal agent standing at the rear door. The agent moved with quiet purpose down the central aisle. "The shield of the law," Eleanor said, her voice rising above the tumult, "cannot protect those who actively betray its very core." "Judge Marcus Thorne," the agent announced in a booming, formal tone that silenced the room once more. "You're under arrest for conspiracy to obstruct justice, bribery, and fraud." The metallic click of the handcuffs echoed with shocking finality. Thorne was utterly speechless, his face ashen, his perceived authority evaporating as he was escorted, head bowed, past the bar of the court he once dominated. Eleanor watched, her expression not one of triumph, but of grim, solemn resolution. "True justice," she said softly, almost to herself, "isn't about winning a case. It's about allowing the buried truth to finally have its say." As the stunned defendant watched his powerful protector be led away, his own facade crumbled into panic. Eleanor slowly turned her piercing gaze to him. "You look deeply concerned, Mr. Garrick. Any particular reason why?" He stammered, sweat beading on his forehead. This is all a terrible mistake. A misunderstanding." "Is it?" she asked, placing one final, thick folder on the table with a soft thud. "Because if we've already uncovered this much, you need to imagine what else we already know, what other threads we are pulling right now." She let the terrifying implication hang in the air between them. "Your voluntary cooperation is now your only remaining currency." The man, Charles Garrick, seemed to physically shrink in his expensive suit. He slumped forward, utterly defeated, the fight gone from his eyes. I want to make a deal. Full immunity." Eleanor gave a single, slow nod. "Then it's time to start talking. And you had better not leave anything out." And with that first confession, the first domino teetered and fell, promising a reckoning that would extend far beyond that one wood-paneled courtroom, shaking the very foundations of the city's power structure. The journey for true accountability was only just beginning. No one stands above justice. Thanks for watching. If this story of courage and meticulous strategy resonated with you, please give this video a like. It truly helps our channel, Winds of Thought, reach others who value these narratives. Let us know in the comments which moment shocked you the most, or if you've ever stood up against a seemingly untouchable authority. Subscribe for more stories where the underdog, armed with truth and preparation, fights back and proves that integrity will always prevail. We'll see you in the next one.